Hey guys, welcome to my new YouTube channel. It's called Live Real, where I've been exploring ideas in Christianity and various topics. And I've started this channel for two reasons. The first one is I just want to share and really make available the things I've been learning at college, because I've just started my degree in applied theology. I finished my first year. It's been amazing. But two, I'm also looking for funding for the second year. So if you think it's something you get on board with, you're part of this journey just as much as me as you have been in the last year. So grateful. And yes, please continue to sponsor me. Or if you haven't, maybe if you think this content is interesting and you want to keep it up, then please do so. So with all that being said, I want to talk to you today about Good Friday and why is it so good. And the reason for me is that the cross expresses the true character of who God is. You know, the original vocation, the original task in the Garden of Eden was for Adam and Eve to reflect God's image into the world. It wasn't so much that they necessarily broke a moral command that sent them down the wrong path. Yes, they did, but that moral command being broken was a symptom of something much worse, which was idolizing something more than God. And our society is pervaded with idolatry in the form of loads of things: sex, money, power, that sort of stuff. And when we give our lives over to this stuff, it embodies something other than God himself. And so simple humanity was stuck in this rut where nobody knew God. Nobody knew what it meant to know God, because with Adam, the true image, the true portrait that had on him of God to reflect in the world was distorted, it was broken. And so Israel, the people of God, were left in exile. Israel was meant to do the same thing that Adam did. They were meant to embody the divine image, the divine character, and carry his name so that they could be a light to all nations. Now, the good thing about the cross is that when Jesus comes himself, that's himself revealing his own self, if that makes sense. God is coming to reveal his own self because humanity forever fail to do the tasks that they meant to do. They forever fail to image God, so that nobody could know God. The kingdom of darkness was over us all. We could not see, we could not be in relationship, we could not know who God was. But on the cross, it really reveals the character of God, because even when he's dying, he is forgiving. God doesn't need to satisfy some sort of justice, I don't think, in order to forgive, because Jesus forgives before the cross. You know, as he's dying, he forgives. But the cross for me is rather a manifestation of forgiveness, and that deals with not sin. It condemns sin, but that doesn't deal with sin. That defeats idolatry, because with the true character of God being revealed on the cross, it reveals sinful humanity and other idols for what they really are. Nothing but corrupt, and it just brings humanity into this state of disrepair. But with God himself coming to do the job, we can then know God, and because we know him, it's that love that really changes us inside out. And so the second thing is that John talks about destroying the works of the devil, because the devil since the garden has been telling lies about who God is. He's the one that says you need to pay. He's the one that says he needs to be just to be satisfied. But God on the cross reveals that he doesn't. He just forgives freely, and as he does that, he loves his people to the end. Now, I know what you're thinking now. What about paying the penalty and that sort of stuff, and penal substitution models, and I think that has a place, but it's reframed in not a legal sense where we sign on a dotted line and get heaven instead of hell and that sort of thing, which it seems to be framed in, but it's framed in the covenantal sense, the story in that God pays the penalty because he comes into the mess that we have made. That's the penalty he pays. We've made the mess, he's paying the penalty for it, because if it was all good and well, humanity would be lovely and he could come and dwell with us and he wouldn't have to pay nothing. But he paid the penalty of our fallen idolatrous nature, that it was our idolatry in the form of Rome that actually killed him and whoever else was involved along the way. Betrayal and that sort of stuff, denial. So it's all these things that led to his crucifixion and death, because that is the penalty. He substitutes himself because it was our job to reveal God to the world. It's our job to we're meant to be priests, which means to carry the divine name and to mediate God to the world. But we failed to do that. And interestingly, at the Sinai covenant, before we was meant to be a kingdom of priests, but then we were scared of God, so then we become a kingdom with priests. So actually, that has changed again. But with Jesus, the high priest, he's the one that he carries the office of God. He carries his name, so that as he enters the Holy of Holies, then that is where the divine presence comes manifest. And it wasn't blood of animals or goats, whatever. It was his own, because that is what cleansed the temple. Because the blood is the life of the animal. It's the life of Jesus that reveals God. It's the life of Jesus that saves us. So it's not so much the problem that it was the wrath of God that needed to be satisfied. It was the problem that idolatry needs to be dealt with and death itself defeated, because idolatry leads to death. And this is the most beautiful part of the Good Friday, is that as humans were pouring their worst onto Jesus, he didn't fight back, but he loved them to the very end. That's the true character of God, is that there's nothing you can do in this world that can ever separate you from the love of God. But we just need to accept that with faith, that this is God revealed in the person of Christ, and the very knowing him transforms us, because where we fix our gaze changes our very identity. Paul says, us with unveiled faces, looking at the glory of God, in the face of Jesus Christ, are transformed from one degree of glory to another. That is the very essence of knowing God. It's you can't know God and not be a different person. You can't know God and not be changed. So he sets us free from our sins through a process of getting to know him. And this is where I think the story has so much weight in the relationship, partnership context, more than the transactional conversion sort of thing where we say a prayer and then get saved and get to heaven instead of hell, which I think is a very modern Western last 100 years sort of thing. But even with the Christus Victor model, as I've just tried to explicate it, including with penal substitution, the Christus Victor model was the most dominant one of the early church. And so I think we should take that seriously. But at the end of the day, what does it matter? Jesus revealed on the cross is God himself, and that is what brings us to relationship. That's what reconciles the world to himself. God didn't need to reconcile himself to himself. He wanted to reconcile humanity to himself, and that is the good news of Friday. Next time we're going to talk about Easter Sunday and why the resurrection is so important for this whole understanding, and it's got a lot to do with temples, so keep in tune.